Oh, we're here again. Welcome to the YouTube channel. Thank you for tuning in. Oh, Mo, what are we talking about today?
First scenario, self-love.
Self-love. I love this game. Honestly, guys, self-love is very important. Make sure you love yourself before loving anyone. Your opinion might be different, but, you know, that's my opinion. Let's tune in.
Right, guys, scenario one, self-love. I've met a guy who's perfect for me, but I'm struggling to love him because right now I'm unable to love myself. I've never been shown love, so I don't know how to give it. I don't want to lose him though. Should I just forget about all of this and start a relationship with him?
So this is something we've been talking about and etc. way before this. So what does self-love mean to you guys?
Confidence, no?
Acceptance.
Yeah, accepting yourself as you are, all your flaws, your insecurities. Yeah.
But is that self-love though? Because the whole point of self-love is you enjoy what you are. It's not seeing it as flaws. I think it's looking at your flaws and then be like, you know what, they're not actually flaws. I think to me that's the idea of self-love.
But everyone has flaws. Like, everyone has something about themselves that they don't like, but you just kind of have to accept it. I think that's what self-love is.
Najla,
You
what do
love
think?
yourself in spite of those. That's what it is for me.
Yeah.
So you love yourself in spite of the flaws. You might want to work on flaws, or you might want to whatever. But I agree with Yusuf. It is more on the focus of loving, regardless of the good and bad, rather than focusing on the bad. Like, I think that kind of defeats the purpose. That's the whole point of self-love. Is whatever flaws, whatever, you love yourself regardless of that, and you accept yourself for that. You may have things that you want to change. That's fine. You may have qualities in yourself that you want to improve on. That's fine. But it doesn't drag you down. Like, you're not, you know what I mean?
Because to me, self-love is it's more like taking care of myself.
It's an aspect of it.
Yeah, rather than you know my goals and etc. Because if you love yourself and you take care of yourself and become the person who you want to be, then I think it's easier for you to love someone else.
100%.
So in this scenario, it says, I'm in love with this guy, blah, blah, blah. But if I don't love myself, then how am I going to love that person? So with that, this is
I
something...
disagree with that though. Because I'm basing this only of what I've witnessed to myself. I've seen so many people that, you know, are not content. They don't have, you know, that level of self-love as they either claim they say they have for themselves or they are, you know, they're aware that they're not comfortable in their own shell, yet on the flip side, they're still, you know, happily talk to somebody, happily get in a relationship with somebody without accomplishing that self-love, whether, you know, that's genuine towards them or not. But for some people, I know it might be harder to love themselves in terms of, if they don't see themselves as vain, if they don't see themselves as like, oh, I have this and this, then they can lack the self-love, but admire or adore somebody else. Yeah. So, you know, they can still fall for somebody else, etc., without truly, you know, falling for themselves, I guess, without having the self-love.
Right.
I think I think that's a dangerous game, though.
Yeah, it is.
It's a dangerous game. I think if you don't have that kind of self-love, it can really catch up in you in your relationship. And as an outsider, you might not see it. Even the people actually in the relationship, they might not see it. But that person may act out in ways and not really understand why, and the partner might not understand why, but it all comes down to that fact of not having that self-love and not understanding. Because this question as well, like the scenario is talking about, she doesn't even know what it feels like to have love.
But then at the same time, I did say kind of this is based on what I've observed, like from other people. Whether, you know, they can truly love somebody else without loving themselves, I think that's very much kind of like a individual personality trait.
Yeah, it's not impossible.
A lot of people can, you know, not put on a front, but a lot of people can, you know, say that, oh, I love myself, I'm happy within my own shell, but they'll go home and then once, you know, you've removed that crowd for them, that audience, all of a sudden, oh, I'm not satisfied with this, I'm not satisfied with that. Whether, you know, that crowd is 100 people or their other half, that's, you know, that's for them to decide on.
Yeah, it's not an impossible thing. I just personally, I probably, like, if that was me in that scenario, I wouldn't start anything with a guy.
You wouldn't get yourself into
until you fully love yourself.
Yeah, I think I'd definitely have a conversation with the guy. Like, if I really like the guy, like she's saying, like, it's a perfect guy, you know, like,
Yeah.
I think I'd have the conversation. I'd be like, listen, this is what's going on, blah, blah. And I think you have to kind of give the guy the decision because, again, if I speak about it from me, my own personal self, I know that if that was me, I'd probably act out in ways that could damage the relationship.
Yeah.
Or ways that might, I don't know, might make him feel insecure, might make him, like, question himself. So I would want to be like, listen, this is what's going on with me.
Yeah.
Right.
Are
But-
you
but-
even willing to deal with that?
But
Like,
by saying that, okay, fair enough. You want to be fair on the other side and etc. But don't you think, even though if you don't have the self-love that you think you should have, by being in that relationship and speaking to that person, listen, I'm not confident. I don't have much of self-love and etc. But can we build it together? Don't you think that person could turn around and help you in terms of, building that confidence and self-love?
they could 100%, but it just, there's varying factors.
Mm.
Like, if you yourself are not willing to make that change, no one can help you make that change.
Yeah.
He can
Yeah.
put all the effort in he wants, but if it's not something you're ready for, then you don't, like, do you know what I mean? Like, you don't know. And I think for me, like I said, the first step would be to have that conversation. And then from then I judge, like, what he said, how am I feeling, and really think about it in the long term. Because if you're serious and this is a long-term thing, the beginning phases might be good. Okay, but what happens when we actually get more serious? When we're more involved in each other's lives, in each other's finances, in each other's families, when we live together, when we're married, do you know what I mean? Like, it may not necessarily be an issue because I might have enough self-love to contain me to this part of the relationship. But then when we get there, I break.
Exactly.
Then what? So I think there's varying factors. Like, you've got to think about it. But with what you said, I don't think it's impossible. I think you could definitely, like, probably make a relationship work. And I think, yes, that person can definitely play a part in helping it. So it wouldn't have to be, like, my advice would never be block something off completely. But I think there's steps and there's
I think
factors that you can
initially
consider.
it's easy to like someone and to proceed with the
Yeah.
whole I'm liking you and etc. But then, as you said, when it gets more serious, then where do you stand?
Yeah.
Are you going to continue with, what you have and what you don't understand about yourself, or you're just going to come to back to ground rules that, okay, I need to focus on myself because I'm not giving much to that person because I don't know myself yet.
Yeah.
So
I think there's points to both kind of sides of the argument. Like, I 100% agree for sure. If you're uncomfortable in your own shell, you might, essentially take out your issues on the other individual,
person.
which basically depends on, how much the other person is willing to either sacrifice for you or how, I guess, resilient they are to make it work. Because if you take out your issues on somebody, if you constantly problematic, starting argument just purely based on, lack of self-love, then that could have detrimental effects. But at the same time, just like Mush said, if you find that somebody that, is willing to build with you, that, you're not meeting each other at 100% each one of you. Maybe someone's, 85% confident, the other one's like, 45% confident. With time, I think one will leech off the other,
Yeah.
whether that may be to bring the self-confident individual down or the self-love down, or the other way around. So you bring up your 45% over time to the same, 85% and make it work, grow together. And now all of a sudden, you're both at the same level. You can build from there, but there has to be a little kind of give and take. But I agree with you. It does rely on the other person. Like, if they serve as your backbone to, grow, help your self-love, etc., cool, that can work. But if, you're just talking to somebody, say you've only met a couple of times, you don't have any, like, ties, like you haven't met them through school, you haven't met them through uni, etc., if you hit them with such almost like a big task from the get-go, like if you're not comfortable in yourself and you can't handle it, they might be like, okay, so I've only met you, a couple of times. I enjoyed your vibe at the start, but if you're putting this much pressure on me from the get-go, maybe it's not for me. Maybe I'm better off, finding somebody else that I start off at a higher point, although we can reach those milestones.
You know what? You've linked perfectly into what I wanted to say. And, like, I know I've conversated with you a bit, Anissa. I was going to see what you guys think on this, yeah? But that's what I feel like the majority of the problem starts from what? Is that people want serious relationships, but you think about boyfriend, you think about girlfriend. You're not thinking marriage, you're not thinking a long time. You're saying serious, but it goes down to what qualities you describe. What, like you said, you're all thinking about boyfriend, girlfriend. Like, that's what I tend to find a lot in conversations. And it's like what you said about, like, that mentality of, I want to, like, it's been pushed to us, isn't it? It's been pushed from society. Oh, if things are hard from the beginning, what's the point? Honestly, I learned my lesson. If things are hard in the beginning, brilliant. Like you've got gold right there, because you're there in the beginning before you've invested all your feelings and time. You get to like operate with that other person and see, are we actually going to function? Because life throws shit at you, right? Life is always going to throw shit at you. And as a married couple, is what you were saying, the 80-40, you have to now face things together. Whatever happens to that partner happens to you. If I'm down, you now have to bring me up. We are married.
I
And
think
it's the
there's
same
a
way.
fine line in it though, because in those situations, that's where things turn toxic, or can rather turn toxic, in the sense that if you got somebody always bringing you down, you know, everyone's, oh yeah, positive vibes only, this, that, and the other. If you have somebody, there's a fine line between lack of self-love and like just negativity. Like when you kind of, what's the word, you not inflict, but say if you're not comfortable in yourself, you don't want others around you to feel comfortable in yourself. Sometimes I've witnessed that happen a couple of times. So it's a case of there's a very, very fine line where either you help them up or they bring you down. If they bring you down, then, you know, that turns sour. Maybe then, although, you know, it's nice if you can work through it together and both go up, if you can't and it brings you down, then that's just, you know, not worth your time, but more so the fact that it can be harmful for you more than anything else.
Toxic relationship, right? There was a question we were talking about on the FaceTime. Who can remember it? It was like about self-love. Would you rather be loved,
would you rather love or be
love
loved?
or be loved? Was it?
Yeah.
What do you think? Because I said I should love myself before I love someone.
I agree. I feel like if you've been loved first, you will know how to reciprocate that love back to someone else. So yeah.
What do you think,
I
Rhea?
don't remember my answer.
You said you'd rather
Be loved.
No, you said you'd rather love first
Yeah.
than be loved.
But then
I think I'd rather be loved at the start, or like if I could only do one of the two, I think the feeling of being loved, that little affection that, you know, can trigger you to love somebody else. Whereas say, you know, you're giving 110% to somebody and, you know, they're not reciprocating the energy, then, you know, maybe after a while, no reciprocation, no kind of response from them, you're like, okay, you know what, I'm over it. But if they're feeding you love, there will be a part of you at least that's like, oh, you know what, maybe that warmth, that kind of, I know the fact that they love me, maybe I can work with that and take it somewhere.
I agree.
I think there was more to that question, because it did sound more complicated at the time. Yeah,
You were probably overcomplicated.
Yeah, it was one of them 3 a.m. calls, and we went deep into it, but it was crazy. But some agreed, some didn't. So we had that.
Yeah, I don't think
What
it's
would you
a
rather,
right or
Angela?
wrong answer. For me personally,
First,
to be
which-
loved.
To be loved.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I agree with
That's
that.
a bit.
That's what I'm saying.
Why?
It has because I feel like the way I am naturally, I give out too much love. So I think in this context of a relationship or whatever, I would want to be loved to begin with, and then that would help me ease.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Cool. So to wrap it up, what do you think this person should do in terms of get into a relationship with this guy, or just go away, risk it, get to know herself, and then perhaps if there is enough time for her to get back with him, then
I think if it is the perfect guy, as she's saying, then try to make it work. If it doesn't work, then it doesn't work.
how do you try
Like
and
get
make
into
it
the
work?
relationship. We can still work on yourself whilst being in a relationship, I feel like.
Can you?
I think you can.
Yeah, I think.
I agree
think
with
you
that
can.
one, but then what's a perfect guy? That I think
That's
that
another
itself,
topic.
that itself is a
That's
whole
subjective to
other.
everyone.
That's
Well,
another
perfect
topic.
for
We don't want
her,
to get
innit?
off topic, but that would be
Her ideal
Yeah.
person.
depends what she sees in a guy.
I think at that point you flip a coin and then
Hope for the best.
heads I go
That's what
for
you
it,
don't do,
tails I
guys.
don't.
At home, please don't do that.
Don't take advice from
Reza,
this.
would you,
No.
what would you do right now?
I wouldn't get into the relationship
No?
personally
Why?
from past experiences. Because I just feel like if you don't love yourself, what's the point of like putting yourself out there, making yourself vulnerable, like you've got insecurities within you. You need to learn to love yourself before you love someone else. And that person, I don't know, me personally, like you were saying, they'll bring you down and whatnot. Why do you need that? That's more stress to yourself. It's going to put you down. So just don't get into it.
And
Even
let's
though
say
it's the perfect guy, but like, has the girl been in a relationship before?
it
What's
doesn't say.
perfect to
It
her?
doesn't say. It doesn't say.
Like
It just says she met this, you know, ideal guy,
Mm.
and obviously she doesn't love herself. She feels like she doesn't love herself, but
I mean,
can
but
she
It
love
starts
someone
from
else?
within. I think you just need to learn to accept yourself before you learn to.
Yeah.
but I think you live and you learn. No, I mean, like no one. I don't know. You can't be born with 100% self love.
Yeah.
So like, I'm gonna just throw that out.
No,
there
that
for the
comes
sake-
over time.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That comes over
So
time.
why don't you make that time the part where you get into a relationship,
Yeah.
grow together, learn to love yourself, and then go from there.
But obviously, as Retta said, it all depends on your past
Yeah.
experiences, what you've gone through, and
Mhm.
etc. I agree with her because, let's say I was with someone and it didn't work out and it turned ugly and toxic and etc.
Mhm.
For your next one, you're not gonna just bounce back and say, you know what, I'm gonna give you my all,
Mhm.
I'm gonna risk it and let's take it on. You know what I mean?
We'll never know.
So it's just gonna be like, okay, baby steps. Okay, do I know myself yet? Do I feel like you could complete me and etc. etc. So it's not an easy scenario. But then again, where you gonna draw the line that you think, okay, I'm not gonna let my past dictate my
your
future.
future. Yeah.
So you gotta have the balance, but then again, it all depends on the situation at the time.